Hi, precious friends. Treneta here from Healing for You. I am so delighted to be with you today, and I want you to know that you are valuable, precious, and truly loved. I want to ask you, have you found that with COVID-19 that there has been challenges in relationships? The closest people to you are severing, families are fighting. Maybe you're hearing about emotional or physical abuse in the home, or just people having general conflicts and misunderstandings. I want to encourage you. The relationship, your relationship, and their relationship is more valuable than the conflict itself. If we take the effort to take the steps to do what is right, there are opportunities where relationships can heal and restore. I wrote a workbook a while ago called Relationship Restoration, where I shared a lot of insight and learning also from great experts on relationships. And I want to share some of that with you later down the road. But in the meantime, I just want to share a little devotion because I really feel in my spirit that every relationship can change, can heal and restore. But the key is do you see your relationships in your life, friendships in your life, family members in your life more valuable than the conflict itself? You see, in today's world, technology is just, it's a great tool. Computers and technology is so needed right now. But it's causing a lot of distraction to the point where it's causing so much stimulation and it's also causing a lot of isolation. On top of COVID-19, sure, we're connecting through Zoom and we're connecting through all these channels. But I will say this, many people are touch deprived and many people are lacking quality time, and that needs to be restored. And in due time, when this COVID-19 is over, I pray that you will take time out to restore and heal in your family, in the friendships in your life. And maybe you may not be present at the present time, but you can start now. And, we have substituted all the computers and work for quality time and precious relationships and friendships. And I personally feel that what it's doing is it's causing a lot of misunderstanding. It's causing a lot of mixed communication. People are texting, leaving a lot of words out where they have to double and find out, did you mean this? Did you mean that? To the point where people are turning away. People are getting frustrated and stimulated and overloaded. Well, I want to encourage you. Your relationship can restore, but we need to understand one thing, that technology is a great tool. It is so needed. But how God created us as individuals, it's so much more valuable. I've been watching Little House on the Prairie in the last few days just because I want to go back to the day and just to see how they communicated. How did they treat each other? How did they value each other as a family? And I think that we can learn a lot from some of those old shows. But I want to say this. There's a story in the Bible when we learn about persistence. And the story is Ruth. We're talking a time of famine, talking of major crisis. And of course, everyone was in grief, losing loved ones left, right, and center. People were dropping like flies. But yet, Ruth had a persistence. When she had the opportunity to go back to her homeland, she chose to stay with Naomi. Why? Because she knew that she didn't want Naomi to be alone, firstly, but she knew that there was a new adventure. She knew that she had to go with Naomi. I sensed that she probably knew there was something out there for her. But most of all, her heart's motive was because she didn't want to leave Naomi alone. She knew that Naomi was going to be traveling alone and it was going to be a hard journey. And Ruth traveled with her and persisted and showed that agape love, sacrificed everything to go. And as she went, not only did she love Naomi and served her, but she was obedient and just faithful and persistent, even in her own grief. And she went the extra mile to even glean in the fields and to go where she's never gone before, and maybe where she could have maybe been unwelcomed, but she took a chance to be in the field, and a blessing happened where she was obviously in the field of Boaz. And the amazing thing about that story is she was courageous. She was courageous and she persevered when she really didn't know all what was happening. And there's times when we're going through crisis, there's times when we're going through challenges where we really don't know what's happening. Our hearts are believing and we're standing firm and healing and transformation in relationships and friendships, and yet nothing seems to be happening yet. But if I can encourage you, stand strong, because God's got a plan, and He's the God of healing and restoration. And He knows what it is that each relationship needs in order to heal before there is a time of restoration. And so I just want to say, restoration really, it's in the Greek term, it's apodidomi, which is, it's really a giving back of what's been taken away. And, it's really a restoration to restore back to normal condition and normal function or position. Even the geese agree with me on that one. But the amazing thing is, we keep hearing that, we're in the new norm, that things aren't going to go back to normal. Well, I don't know. If we're believing God for restoration, well, we need to ask God, bring us back into restoration, Lord. And take us to a new level of communicating, a new level of growing in the friendships, the relationships that we have. And I've been sharing with people that when we come out of this COVID-19, are we going to be all in to the point where we're going to forget about the precious people in our lives and get caught up with all our work to the point where we're missing out on the beautiful, valuable gifts in our life? I really feel in my spirit that relationship restoration requires a lot of time and a lot of effort. But the most amazing thing is, it's not an attitude of, I get, or I have to, or I have to do this, or I have to do that. It's I get to, because it is an opportunity to grow. Now, I realize there are relationships, there's some cases where, maybe an ex-girlfriend or ex-boyfriend or an ex-wife or husband, I realize there may be a time where you can't restore, and I understand that. But I'm talking the ones who've been set apart for God, and there's great opportunity, and yet there's obstacles in the way. What are you doing to help restore those relationships? What steps are you doing to help bring healing into that relationship? Are you reaching out? Are you picking up the phone? Or are you ignoring? Are you giving the silent treatment? Are you living in fear? Or are you taking the courage that God wants you to have and to say, you know what? Let's connect. Let's just be courageous athletes for Jesus, and let's just do what He's called us to do and heal, restore, and be great glory carriers for Jesus, but also change agents for God. Pretty amazing stuff. And I just think about, Ruth and how she just healed through all that pain, moved forward. She met the Boaz of her life, and Boaz met the most beautiful, God-fearing woman of his life, and they persevered. And you don't think when Boaz and her were friends at the beginning that they had their moments? I'm sure they did. I'm sure he had his fears. I'm sure she had her fears. There's a lot in the Bible that's not descriptive of that. But every relationship has their challenges. Every friendship, relationship, mem show us. Every person is going to have conflicts. It's not a bad thing. Conflicts help us grow. Fear never motivates right behavior. But when you have fear, you can recognize it and you can realize where it comes from. Then you can say, you know what? I'm going to come face to face with this fear, and I'm going to work through this. You've hurt people that may have not been kind or loving. There's room for change. And that's all it takes, is to say, you know what? I was wrong. How can I make things right? How can we grow to make a difference? And I was just thinking about the story of two young girls who were fighting down the hall of a former church I attended. And the two girls were fighting and slapping each other, and I walked up to them and I just said, no. I said, is that how you think Jesus would want you guys to deal with things? And the two girls went, no. And I said, well, what do you think He'd want you to do? And the one girl actually, they both announced it, and they went, "Forgive." And I said to them, I said, "Now who would like to go first?" And the one girl said, "I'm sorry, Alicia, I'm sorry," to the other girl. And I said, "Good." I said, "Now you just hug and you go play like nothing happened." And those two girls gave each other the biggest hug, like nothing ever happened. And they went and skipped down the hall and began to play. And I just thought, wow, I wish adults could do this. And we can. We can come back to the heart of a child and say, "Lord, teach us. Teach us how to restore. Teach us when we say things that are hurtful. Teach us when we do things that are hurtful, how to love like you, God, so that we can see the friendships in our life restored." And so I want to ask you, what steps are you willing to take to help restore your relationship? What steps are you willing to take to see the healing that God wants in your life? I want to take you on a journey in time on relationship restoration because I feel that there are too many people giving up way too quick. There's too many people out there not giving each other the opportunity to say a word in edgewise, to even heal, or even to get to know precious people in your life. But all I know is that every relationship is valuable, precious, and loved, and that God has a plan. And fear is the biggest hindrance. Pride and arrogance are the biggest hindrances that gets in the way of great, precious treasures. And all I want to say is, would you be willing to lay that down? Before we all go back to work, would we lay down our workaholic behaviors or our pressing into our goals? Nothing wrong with goals, but let's press into our growth. John Maxwell always talks about it's not about goals only, but it's about growth. And how are we growing? And because growing is a continual process. When we just focus on the goal, we just come to the goal and we just finish and then we go on to the next thing and we treat things with a disposable mindset. But the truth is, when you come with a growth mindset, it's a consistent journey where you want to grow, you want to advance, you want to better yourself every single hour and moment of your life. And I feel that as this COVID starts to merge out, completely out, and we're completely free from this pandemic, I feel that God is saying, what are you doing with what I've shown you? What are you doing? Are you going to take this crisis and learn from it? Are we going to be the leaders that God's called us to be and be able to restore in relationships that we can? And are we able to be the change agents that God's calling us to be? Because you see, when you're in your home and you're in conflict, and we try to live in avoidance, let's say, and not be real, there's nothing more precious, precious ones that when you come to your children and you say, "You know what, Mom and Dad were wrong. You know what? Um, maybe we shouldn't have said that. We realize we said that, and I know it hurt you, and I'm so sorry. I was wrong." And when we come to a place of humility, even before our children or our grandchildren, God can really do a miracle. It's okay. We can let our guard down as leaders. When our children and our grandchildren see our weaknesses, they realize that they can be real too. And it's so precious when we can actually learn relationship restoration, because that's what it's all about. And then it becomes a memorial so that the next generation can learn from the good habitual ways of living, the healthy ways of living, the healthy forms of communication that really taught them lessons that demonstrated love, perseverance, and consistency, which also leads to trust. So I just want to say that what are you doing? And what are you willing to do is my first question to ask you. What are you willing to do to help restore the friendships that you have now, the family relationships you have? It's a real good question to ask. And so I want to challenge you with that question. And I want to bless you today. And I want to encourage you, write that question down somewhere and make it tangible. Write it out and seek the Father on it, because relationships are not disposable. They are precious gifts from God. Every perfect gift comes from God, and He wants you to know that you are valuable, you are precious, and you are loved. And I honor you today, and I thank you so much for allowing me to share with you today. Have yourself an amazing day and enjoy this beautiful sunshine. Have yourself a great day. Bye for now.